Good morning from a very sunny Hayling Island. It's a little bit chilly, but as we're down on the beach with some kits that we're basically putting through its paces for the next issue of SUP Mag UK, I just thought I'd run through a little bit how we do the testing for the magazine, as I think the way we do it is not necessarily the right way or the only way, but from our point of view it's a pretty good way to get a good view, an overall view of what a piece of equipment does. So I'm Tez Plaveniggs, for those people that don't know me. I'm the editor of SUP Mag UK, and I also do the majority of the testing, of the stand-up paddleboard testing that we do, and also sort of coordinate how we do it. There are a team of us, there are 3 of us currently, and we range in level from sort of mid-intermediate up to sort of late intermediate, and then onwards up to advanced. And the reason we have a test team covering that broad spectrum of skill is because that reflects you guys, the paddlers. There are people out there that are beginners, there are people out there that are sort of progressing, and there are people out there that are already, I suppose, what you would call pretty advanced. And that's whatever sort of type of stand-up paddleboarding you're looking at, be that racing, be that surfing, be that whitewater. So we try and cover all of that skill set with the test team to give you as broad an overview as possible as what these pieces of equipment can actually do. Now, the whole test process, if you like, starts when we receive the kit. Here we've got a Starboard 2018 Hypernut 9 foot, so it's brand new. So as soon as we get that in the packaging, we get it out, we take a look at it, and what I'll generally do as well is briefly run a tape measure over the whole board, just because sometimes there are anomalies in terms of dimensions and measurements. So we do a quick check, just to make sure that everything's on point. Generally, with a brand like Starboard, you can pretty much guarantee that what they're quoting dimensions wise is as it is. It's usually spot on. So this is, like I say, this is a 9 foot Starboard Hypernut that we're currently putting through its paces. It's 31.5 wide, and if I flip it over, it tells me that it's 145 litres as well. That's pretty much as it is. The fins, we tend to check out the fins as well, see how they are. Some boards, a lot of boards in fact, you can play around with the fin configuration just to give a different feel or a different style of riding, or sort of way of riding, particularly in waves. This is a wave board, this is a wave orientated SUP. I do swap the fins around as much as possible, even though with some brands, again like Starboard, they've probably configured the shape, that size of board, to the fin sizes, to the fin types. But I always think it's a good idea to just swap the fins out, just to give yourself a different impression of what a board can do. You never know, you might stumble upon something slightly better, a fin configuration that's slightly better. In some instances it might actually make the board perform worse, but either way we get an idea of what that board can do. Likewise, we tend to take out equipment, not just boards, paddles as well, in different scenarios, different environments. So as much as possible, I'll take this board, this is a surf SUP, I'll take it in clean surf, so you know, surf that's good, as it were, but I'll also take it out in choppy conditions, because again, when you're surfing, when you're riding, in particular surfing, when you're riding in less than ideal conditions, how user-friendly that board is in those not very good conditions is a good indicator of how good or bad that particular board is. It's all very well everyone wanting, you know, clean offshore surf, but sometimes we don't get that. And if a board works in less than ideal conditions and works well, then you generally know it's a pretty good board, you know. So I'll take it out in a variety of conditions, variety of surf conditions. I'll also, as well, even though this is a surf SUP, I'll also take it out on flat water, because paddling a surf SUP on flat water can tell you a lot about the board as well. You can assess the board's glide properties, how well it tracks, and also as well, particularly if you're not used to the board, say for instance you've just purchased a new surf SUP and you're not sure how it'll be, it's good to just go out on the flat, practice manoeuvring, you know, do a few pivot turns, move up and down the board, that kind of thing, so you're getting to know that board intimately before you've even gone anywhere near a wave. It's a good idea, and I like to do it, like I say, and I get the team to do this because it gives, again, a broader overview of what that piece of equipment, what that board can actually do. And it's the same if we're testing race SUPs or touring SUPs. Again, they're designed mainly for flat water, but if it's windy, for instance, if we get a period of wind, I'll take it out and see how it works on downwind runs. And also if we've got a bit of swell, I'll take it out and see if it can surf, because again, it just gives you a broader overview of what that board can actually do in the conditions that you've got on that particular day. And in terms of race SUPs, for instance, particularly in this country, race events are held in such a broad, diverse set of locations where any kind of conditions can materialise. You know, if you can ride your board, if your board works well on flat water but also works well with bumps and also works well in the surf, then again, you know you've probably got a good board. And if you're used to riding that particular board across those multiple sort of weather scenarios, condition scenarios, then that's a good thing. Your confidence will be better, higher, and again, you're probably going to do better in the actual race. So yeah, just because boards, equipment are designated as being one particular type of sort of equipment for particular scenarios doesn't mean you can't take them into other sort of scenarios and see how they perform there. And like I say, we like to do it because it gives us a broader overview. So from a testing point of view, it's better, it gives us a clearer picture of what that piece of equipment can actually do. And then obviously once we've sort of taken it across a variety of different conditions, you know, we'll swap about as the team and make sure everybody's on point in terms of what we think. It's then a case of me collating our opinions between me, Tony and Richard. You know, I'll put the opinions together and then create the actual review from there. In terms of photographs, we've always sort of not struggled, but in the early days it was, how do we get photographs? How do we make sure we get a good image of this board in use? And that's the key for me. It's showing the board in use in its optimum setting. So again, if it's a wave SUP, we get a shot of it on a wave. If it's a race SUP, we get a shot of it either on flat water, if it's a flat water race SUP, or if it's an open sort of water, open ocean SUP in open ocean. And we tend to use action cams simply because it's the easiest way to get those on water shots. We'd love, you know, in an ideal world to have a photographer on standby, but unfortunately, because the three of us as a team are busy people, we kind of have to slot our water time in our testing schedule around everything else that we do. So we tend to use action cams quite extensively, as anyone will know who's read the magazine. And you know, that gives a good identification as to what that board's doing in that particular scenario. So a wave SUP on a wave, for instance, which is all good. Like I say, we'd love to have, you know, more sort of photographer shots, as it were, but sometimes that just doesn't work out. On that front, in terms of sort of mounts, just so you guys have got a bit of an idea as to how we do it, I use a fly mount. So big shout out to Joe Napton at Fly Mount, who sorts us out with the fly mounts, which are the mounts, quite heavy duty, durable action cam mounts, which mount to a paddle. They kind of are really good when you drop into a wave, for instance, still keeping on the wave SUP theme. When you drop into a wave, as you bottom turn, you can throw your paddle up in the air, and it gives a nice sort of angle of the board actually bottom turning. So it gives a good dynamic image and shows the board, you know, profile and it being in use. Another one which I personally quite favour, and this sort of tends to be good for manoeuvre orientated shots, so sort of top turns, sort of if you're hitting the lip or coming off a closeout or something like that. I use, as many people will know, I'm a windsurfer as well as a stand-up paddleboarder, so I've got a windsurf harness mount, and I get that that's a K4 fin, so big shout out to Steve Thorpe at K4 who sorts us out on that. And basically people laugh because it looks like I've got an antenna strapped to my back, as it were, but it gives a good angle of the board, sort of like I say, coming off the top turns, hitting the lip, that kind of thing. So that's the way we kind of get the shots. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how we carry out the stand-up paddleboard testing. You can obviously catch all of the sort of latest tests in each mag. We're obviously just about to go into the 2018 season, but check out the website for all of the sort of retrospective tests that we've done in all of the mags. Everything in the magazine ends up online eventually, so if you miss it in the mag, then obviously check it out online. We do eventually put everything up on there. Hope you enjoy them, and hopefully it will give you all the knowledge you need to make your next stand-up paddleboard purchase.